welcome to all the people in the room and also connected online. So today we have the pleasure of having Karma Peiró here. She's a journalist who is expert in communication, artificial intelligence, or, well, this type of topics. And we will have the pleasure of having a lecture on this area. So for those who are interested in making questions online, I think you can use the chat. Alex, are you controlling that? So just please write the questions there and we will report them here. So thank you, Karma.
Thank you. Thank you, Jordi, for having me here. Thank you, all of you, for coming, and the people that probably is online. Thank you to all of you. So, yes, I'm a journalist. I'm an outsider in this faculty of informatics. And I have thought, at the beginning, I thought to do a different lecture or to start in a different way. But the events of the last few days and weeks have made me rethink the focus of this speech. So let's start. I don't know how many of you have seen this image already.
On the oversight of artificial intelligence, the first in a series of hearings intended to write the rules of AI. And now for some introductory remarks.
Too often, we have seen what happens when technology outpaces regulation. The unbridled exploitation of personal data, the proliferation of disinformation, and the deepening of societal inequalities. We have seen how algorithmic biases can perpetuate discrimination and prejudice, and how the lack of transparency can undermine public trust. This is not the future we want.
If you were listening from home, you might have thought that voice was mine and the words from me, but in fact, that voice was not mine, the words were not mine, and the audio was an AI voice cloning software trained on my floor speeches. The remarks were written by ChatGPT. I am sure that we'll look back in a decade and view ChatGPT and GPT-4 like we do the first cell phone, those big clunky things that we used to carry around, but we recognize that we are on the verge, really, of a new era.
For the advertisement. So he's Senator Richard Blumenthal before the U.S. Senate Committee, and this hearing took place this week on Tuesday, 16 May. With the creator or the CEO of OpenAI. And this was an introductory, hearing. The first in a series of hearings intended to write the rules of artificial intelligence in the United States. So, I can use, one second. Yes? No? Okay. So, in recent moments, transparency and accountability have been the two most repeated concepts when talking about the risks and challenges of artificial intelligence. But I have a question. How do we exercise this transparency? When and who needs to be accountable? These are questions that still need to be addressed. And when we analyze case studies where AI made mistakes or discriminate against a group of people, observing the origin and context of the data most of the times is the solution to avoid the following errors. Today we have metadata and documents that can help us to understand better, but those documents are enough? Another question. What other information should these metadata files contain? I'm going to try here. Okay. So I have structured this talk in 3 parts. Let's start with the fears. This is a cartoon published last February in The Economist magazine, and you can read it and smile. As it shows very well, and it shows very well how people are at the same time scared, but also eager to have such a powerful tool in their hands and test its fantastic capabilities. All of you, for sure, have had in your hands the ChatGPT. This demonstration, and the next one is another fear. This demonstration took place this week too. Screenwriters in Hollywood protest because they feared that this tool, ChatGPT, would put them out of work. Only 6 months have passed since the launch of ChatGPT, and already generative artificial intelligence is being criticized from all sides, perhaps to the same extent that it is admired. More fears. Samsung. This is funny, boom, no? Samsung has banned its employees from using ChatGPT at work after its engineers accidentally leaked ChatGPT's internal source code last month. Other companies, including Amazon, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, have restricted the use of ChatGPT. And you know very well that in Italy is the first country to ban ChatGPT. In April, the Italian Data Protection Authority ordered a cease, and OpenAI faces now a fine of 20 million euros. So this is happening in the last month. Also, the European Data Protection Board and the Spanish Data Protection Authority are also considering if they ban the tool, ChatGPT, because it can significantly impact people's rights, and because it is not following the rules of the General Data Protection Regulation in Europe. So we need to...
we are not sharing the screen.
We are not sharing from the beginning? Wow.
No. Well.
Sorry for the people online. So the European Data Protection Board and the Spanish Data Protection Authority also. And even here in Catalonia, the Catalan Data Protection Authority has issued a warning this week to entities about the risk of using ChatGPT to comply with data protection regulations. And it says the document is addressed to the Catalan government, to the city councils, to the schools, to the public and private universities in Catalonia and professional associations. Probably these universities also have received this document. And and it says that the tool not be used in the exercise of public tasks and public services where personal data are processed until the European Data Protection Board has given its opinion on the matter. So, what do you think? Do you think that ChatGPT itself is aware of the problems that it's causing? Let's see. It seems that yes. So these are the concerns with ChatGPT right now: privacy, the spread of misinformation and bias, and the risk of losing jobs. Probably in the future we will have more. And this is, as you know, Samuel Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, the company that developed ChatGPT, and he admitted in the hearing that we saw at the beginning that even himself has fear of the monster that OpenAI has created. And he asked in this hearing of the US Senate for a regulation. So we want artificial intelligence to act and react like humans, that is, that machines be able to think, learn, and work intelligently, but we need more development to achieve this goal. So maybe we need time. Should it then be used on a large scale when it's not yet completely safe and does not comply with the laws we have created? Here, let me show you. I don't know how many of you have seen this video. This is a perfect analogy of the age of algorithms, says Carissa Belith. Carissa Belith is a researcher from Oxford University. You probably know very well. She is the author of a bestseller, The Power is Privacy, that I recommend you a lot. And show us with this funny analogy how far this technology still needs to be developed. Let me click here.
Step 1, get 2 pieces of bread out. Got 'em. Get a butter knife and get some PB. Take 1 piece of bread, spread it around with the butter knife.
No, Dad, with the peanut butter.
I'm just doing what it says. It says take 1 piece of bread, spread it around with the butter knife.
Hold on.
Get some jelly, rub it on the other half of the bread.
No, Dad, open the jelly.
Well, it doesn't say to do that. Put the breads together on top of each other. Take a big bite. This doesn't taste like a peanut butter jelly sandwich.
Sorry, I had to make it extremely specific.
Oh, good. I'm starving. Take 2 pieces of white bread out of the bag. Take the lid off the jar of peanut butter. Get a butter knife and stick it inside of the peanut butter jar. With the knife, scoop a bit of peanut butter out
A bit,
of the...
that means like a lot.
A bit means a lot?
In my world.
There we go.
You're doing better than before, though.
Open the jelly jar. Squeeze it onto the other piece of bread.
No.
Done. Closer. Bread. Get some peanut butter. Take the peanut butter knife. Open the peanut butter. Put the knife in the PB. Get some jelly. Open the jelly.
No.
Squirt the jelly onto the bread.
You're supposed to...
Take the butter knife with the peanut butter on it. Wipe it all over the piece of bread that's blank. Take the butter knife, rub the jelly all over the piece of bread.
Oh, he's doing better. Oh.
It says all over. Put the 2 pieces on top of each other.
This isn't how I meant.
Take 2 pieces of white bread out of the bag. Take the lid off the jar of peanut butter. Get a butter knife and stick it inside of the peanut butter jar.
Okay, so it's supposed that the kids are the humans, and the man, the father is the machines. No? So it still, we need a lot of time. So solutions. We have seen some fears. Of course, there are a lot of more, but let's go to the solutions, if we have. And let's move now to Detroit in the late 60s. There, violent confrontations between African and American neighborhoods and the police were frequent. Many people were hurt in those years, but especially on that 23rd July, when more than 7,000 people were arrested. That riot was the initial spark for the Black Power movement, as you know. In this context, and in those years in Detroit, we placed this map, a report from the police department of Detroit visualizing child death statistics. And the title of this map is what you read: Citywide pattern of children's pedestrians' death and injuries by automobiles. Using the same data, city and year, now see this other map and its title: Where commuters run over black children on the Point's downtown track. With this title, the second one, we can understand that most of the children killed were black, even if on the map of the police department the race is not explicit. This second map was created by the Detroit Expedition and Institute, a collaborative project in which geographers like William Bunch work with black activists, Gwendolyn Warren, and other young people from the area. Together they collected the data because, of course, the police didn't want to share its data. With this work, they show that only in one street corner, up to 6 black children were killed by white drivers in a 6-month period. One solution is to observe the context and look for the missing data. The important question here is who is making maps and who is being mapped. The Detroit Expedition and Institute's map challenges the unequal distribution of data and power. Faced with a lack of data, they compiled their own counter data. They decided to find out exactly when, where, how, who killed each children. The role of data science in challenging power is well illustrated by this map. And this example is in this book that I recommend you also very much, Data Feminist, written by 2 data scientists, Catherine D'Ignacio and Lauren Klein. It's online and is open for all of you with dozens of examples related with data. So data is everywhere. Today we count everything. We produce data every second. We analyze this data. We make comparisons. Numbers become the objective truth. But are they really the objective truth? We categorize numbers. We create criteria. We design categories. Often these indicators are used to governance, and they are so important to decide the rules that govern us. So I teach ethics and democratic culture, a subject in this master's degree in visual tools to empower citizens. And this year, I taught to my students if they could look for a similar data set in the Barcelona City Council Open Data Portal. You know, all of us, we have lots of open data. And after the years, I thought that maybe they could find a data set without missing data, because we have laws that allow to the citizens to have this data. And I told them to ask for these questions. Is the data set updated? what data is missing. Why is this data missing? What other useful data is there? Why did the local government choose these variables and not others to create these criteria? Where is the debate? The debate published that they had? There is no. It's impossible to find. Of course, you find metadata files, and it says when the data set was created, who it was, when it was the last update, and other things, and which kind of data is inside, and also the name of the columns and the rows. But where is the criteria to decide these columns and these rows? It's very complicated, very difficult to find this information. So to deal with the context, I strongly also recommend this reading of Deborah Stone. She is a researcher at the Brace University, a specialist in politics. And she did this lecture, The Ethics of Counting. And she poses the following example in the site. She talks about that the numbers mean exactly what the people who design them want them to mean. And I think this is a very important sentence or reflection. And also she says, how we count and collect data is crucial to politically decide the public policies that will affect people's life. And she put this example. This is the United Nations Violence Against Women Indicator. Okay? This is an official source, guidelines for producing statistics on violence against women. I guess that before have these guidelines or survey, the surveyors ask women things like, have you experienced this or that act of violence? And if the women say yes, so they are counting the yes, and then they decide the measure of violence or how to count violence against women. So in 2009, there was an expert committee meeting where were members from Europe, North America, Australia, New Zealand, the Global South in general also. So they create these statistics with different committees each, I don't know, several years, 2, 3, or 4 years they are changing. And some women from Bangladesh, they provide a list of items they consider violence against them. And you can see, you can read here, for example, expelled from the house. In Western Nepal, some women are forced to sleep outside on the ground during their menstruation, and for 3 months around the time of a childbirth. This is something that we here, even the women, we cannot understand, but it happens as a violence. Also, you have here, don't pay attention to the children, threat of separation, pressures for dowry, etc. So they made this list in 2009, but as you can see in the final United Nations guidelines in 2014, you will not see any of these points that women Bangladeshi said. So still, when the numbers come in, they will reveal little about the people whose ideas are not included in the pile of things to be counted. And these final guidelines will be applied also in the Bangladeshi women. And here you have a sentence of Deborah Stone. I don't know if you can read it there. Well, if you're strong enough to be in a position to design a measure, please, you have an obligation to amplify the voices of the weak by counting what matters to them also. So it's important to pay attention to the context and provenance of data, especially now that decisions are being made based on data and algorithms more than ever. I was part of an independent group of journalists who demanded accountability from the Catalan government on this issue, violence against women here in Catalonia. And we made this report, and you can find easy on web, in open website, desprotegidas.cat. And then we analyzed the current data on violence against women here in Catalonia and found that there is a great lack of information. So we asked for more data. And we based our analysis in the official source that it was, in that moment, a survey with 10,000 answers of women. And these charts shows women who have been victims according to the seriousness of the facts. So you can read if they have been victim the complete life, since 15 years old or just the last year. And also you can read here the colors, and the colors are less serious facts, and very serious facts in the strong blue, okay? But with this information, we have some questions, because it's hard to say how is less serious facts. How do you categorize a less serious fact? How do you categorize a serious fact? And when we asked to the Catalan government or the experts, they hadn't any answer for us. So how can we categorize what is a threat? Is the same threat perceived in the same way by all women? How can we count how often a woman is raped? By single events? What if there is no physical contact? How can we count psychological violence? How large does a survey need to be enough representative of a population or a subgroup? So you see, too many questions when we try to count something, and we are talking about small data, if you want, okay? I leave here this also book, another book. It's for the anthropologist Sally Engel, that she insists on context as part of the solution to the frequent errors of missing data that we have nowadays. And here is another voice, another solution, from, in this case, from Heather Krauss. She's a data scientist. And she suggests as a solution to lead with all these questions of context and to look for missing data and try to represent and include everyone in the data analysis. How? With what she calls data biography, a template, a simple template, where some basic questions need to be answered. So who collect the data, who owns the data? This is we have this in more the metadata files. But the methods behind the data collection design and the process, maybe we miss this. And in what locations was the data located? Where is the data stored? For what purpose? And when was the data collected? So you have here a template. Let's move now to the more big data and to London. In the 80s, Geoffrey Franklin, Deputy Dean of the St. George's Hospital Medical School in London, had to evaluate about 2,500 applications each year. To automate the process, he wrote an algorithm to help him based on previous applications. And that year, the first year, the candidates faced a double test before being admitted: the algorithm and teacher test. Franklin saw that the scores were 95% consistent, and he decided to replace humans for this algorithm and save this tedious phase to review a lot of applications. But 4 years later, the school's management realized that there was little diversity in the candidates. What happened? At the end, the UK Commission for Racial Equality reported the school for xenophobia and gender discrimination. Every year, the algorithm had left about 60 people out of the selection process because they had non-European surnames or because they were women. Biases were being perpetuated. We may hope that the situation would have improved over the years, but that happened in the 80s in London. And we can see now that maybe the situation is not better, because what happens when a person is wrongfully accused by an algorithm? When an algorithm cuts the healthcare system of a person. When almost 2 million families lose the social bonus because the algorithm discriminates against them. When an algorithm discriminates against Black people, or against women. Those examples are really recent, in the last 5-7 years, and the media collected. So maybe a solution could be this. This is data sheets for data sets. I don't know if any of you know this paper. It was written by a collective of a group of data scientists and researchers. They proposed this solution some years ago to prevent possible discriminations and mistakes. And what they did is a document that they explain that a data set needs to be documented with its motivation, its composition, its collection process, and its recommended uses. Data sheets for data sets have the potential, they say, to increase transparency and accountability within the machine learning community, mitigate unwanted societal biases in machine learning models, facilitate greater reproducibility of machine learning results, and help researchers and practitioners to select more appropriate data sets for their chosen tasks. So I recommend you the paper as a possible solution. Another solution to live with the fears in artificial intelligence of the current moment could be to raise awareness in different formats or ways. And I guess all of you know very well this data scientist and her book, Cathy O'Neill. There are different opinions about this book. Some say there are too much fears inside, and some others are agree with the opinions of her. But to raise awareness, we have other solutions. For example, the reports that this NGO, Algorithm Watch, make since 2019. This is the first one, and it's a non-profit organization that wanted to make an investigation into what automated decision-making systems have been used in Europe. So the research was conducted for different countries. I was co-author or part of the Spain, the report of Spain. This is one from Denmark, and you can find more than 12 countries here where you'll find the laws in that moment, and also examples of how governments are using artificial intelligence, ADM especially, also with services addressed to the people. And this is some of the examples that I report in that time. We have here this system, Sabri in Catalonia, and RISC-CANBI also in our prisons since 12 years ago. And you can read how it works and how it was adapted, this software, in the last 12 years. Also, the Spanish Public Employment Service has an automated system, etc. So another way to raise awareness is this other report, in this case from Catalan Data Protection Authority, that conducted also an investigation. I was part of this report in one chapter, and I gave more than 50 examples of where ADM was in that moment, in 2020, working in different areas, in education, in justice, in economy, communication, work, health, etc. You have the different examples, and also a final part dedicated to the ethics in AI. So thanks to these kind of reports, media are expanding the awareness of the general public to the general public too. And this is one case with the algorithm that we have in Catalonia in our prisons that was reported by La Vanguardia, a local media. And one of the examples that I put in the education field is that one that one school, high school, had, not now, had a facial recognition system in the entrance of the institute or school, and it was it was forbidden, and then the Catalan authority had to fine the school. And also the same example, for example, here facial recognition in school renders Sweden's first GDPR fine. No? So there is a lot of awareness, and also it has consequences. Another way or another solution to raise awareness of this AI risk comes from this computer scientist, Joy Bolambini. I don't know if you have heard about her. She discovered that the facial recognition system that she had trained in the MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, didn't recognize her face because she was black and woman. And she started to raise a campaign, no? She found the Algorithmic Justice League, and she made this documentary, Coded Bias, that I recommended also. She also explains the mistakes that big tech companies made when they failed to recognize the most famous women of all times. And now, maybe it's time to jump here and see this.
My heart smiles as I bask in their legacies, knowing their lives have altered many destinies. In her eyes, I see my mother's poise. In her face, I glimpse my auntie's grace. In this case of deja vu, a 19th century question comes into view. In a time when Sojourner Truth asked, "Ain't I a woman?" Today we pose this question to new powers, making bets on artificial intelligence, hope towers. The Amazonians peek through windows blocking deep blues as faces increment scars. Old burns, new urns, collecting data chronicling our past, often forgetting to deal with gender, race, and class. Again I ask, ain't I a woman? Face by face the answers seem uncertain. Young and old, proud icons are dismissed. Can machines ever see my queens as I view them? Can machines ever see our grandmothers as we knew them? Ida B. Wells, data science pioneer, hanging facts, stacking stats on the lynching of humanity, teaching truths hidden in data, each entry and omission, a person worthy of respect. Shirley Chisholm, unbought and unbossed, the first Black Congresswoman, but not the first to be misunderstood by machines well-versed in data-driven mistakes. Michelle Obama, unabashed and unafraid to wear her crown of history, yet her crown seems a mystery to systems unsure of her hair. A wig, a bouffant, a toupee, maybe not. Are there no words for our braids and our locks? Does relaxed hair and sunny skin make Oprah the first lady? Even for her face well known, some algorithms fault her, echoing sentiments that strong women are men. We laugh, celebrating the successes of our sisters with serena smiles. No label is worthy of our beauty.
And we have ethical codes as a solution too. We have ethical codes from Microsoft, Facebook, also from governments, White House, also the ethics guidelines for trustworthy AI, etc. from China government. But it is a good solution, right? But who supervises that the codes are followed? The ethics committees are set up by the companies themselves. Shouldn't they be independent, these committees? We don't have this information, but maybe it's a solution. Another solution is is beginning now in Europe, are these algorithmic transparency registers that different European cities had already adopted to increase transparency and accountability, of course. One of the cities is Barcelona, also Brussels, Rotterdam, etc. You can see here in the, and this is really recent. I think just a few months ago started. And if you click here, start using the standard, it's supposed that all the cities will collect the same information and will spread the same they will have the same transparency with the algorithms. So at least is a solution. Another solution maybe can be to take for a pause. Okay, this is the letter that all of you know, a letter that was signed by thousands of experts in artificial intelligence in March. They say, write this, should we let machines flood our information channels with propaganda and untruth? Should we automate away all the jobs, including the fulfilling ones, etc.? So they ask for the industry can apply the rules of the Alisomar AI principles, one of the most influential sets of AI governance principles, and they claim that these principles are not being followed. And they also say that artificial intelligence should be planned and managed with care and resources. And unfortunately, this is not happening right now. And this is Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, that maybe another solution is to ask for more regulation before the ChatGPT, the monster, happens something worse. He recognized that this generative AI will have an impact on jobs. He is worried, really, about the potential impact on democracy and how AI could be used to send misinformation. So, challenges. And for the last part of this talk, I have collected different voices to end this talk, and the voices are part of this report that I showed you before, the Artificial Intelligence Automatic Decision Making in Catalonia. She's professor of ethics, Victoria Camps, and one of the things that I highlight is this: ethics is mandatory, but it doesn't have the force of law. So we are talking a lot about ethics, but it doesn't have the force of law. So which does compel you and penalize you if you break it. Ethics compels your conscience. And that's, I think it's a good reflection. Here is Alessandro Mantelero, the Council of Europe reporter of Artificial Intelligence and Data Protection. And he says, ethics can never be global. So we have trustworthy guidelines, European trustworthy guidelines, but it's very difficult to get to European ethics, because the ethics here in Catalonia are different than the ethics in Russia or in another country. You are from different countries here, so the ethics will be different. Carme Torres, she is one of the boss of the Institute of Robotics and Industrial Computing. And I highlight this part where she says, regulation to safeguard minimum standards when applying artificial intelligence is a must, and also education, starting with training the people who develop the technology in ethical principles. Really important. For sure, you know Ramon Lopez de Mantaras, and he told me it should be possible to certify algorithms bias-free. It is another challenge that we face in the next years. And also, he asked for accountability. No? This is an issue unsolved. Ricardo Baeza Yates, he asked, talking about biases, he proposed to create a Jiminy Cricket. I don't know if you know this figure, a Jiminy Cricket or some virtual assistant that could tell us when a bias or prejudice is being expressed in speaking, acting, and judging, to realize more about the biases with the data. So and the question that I made is how many of us would accept that a machine and a virtual assistant or a phone hears our conversations and say, and detect our prejudices, no? So it's a challenge. Itziar de la Cuona, no? She is Deputy Director of the Bioethics and Law Observatory at the University of Barcelona. And she says that the problem is that decisions are made about me using data that is mine, but will never, I cannot finish to read the sentence, but will never ask for our data. And maybe Ulysses, that is here, can say or can explain this sentence. We have to teach the limits of technology and critical thinking. Maybe later with when there are questions and comments. Petya Radeva, she works at the University of Barcelona also, and she asked for data donors for the investigations, especially when we talk about health. And Karina Gibert, also very known. She talked about the energy cost of AI. It's something that maybe we are not thinking a lot, but we need to do it also. So these last voices or reflections as a challenges. Wait. We can summarize as challenges of the AI: biases, privacy, explainability, responsibility or accountability, security, the ecological footprint and others that we will have to face in the next years. This was one of the opinion article in The Economist just a week ago or 2 weeks ago, how to worry wisely about artificial intelligence and the two phases of this situation. And this is an interesting interview or conversation that Ulysses is saying no, because here is the Meta head of research, Jan Le Khan, in debate with Yuval Noah Harari, author of *Sapiens* and also a historian. And some of them, there are two visions. The Yuval say maybe that artificial intelligence is the atomic bomb, or to compare with like a danger, and the other expert from Meta says that it is an advance, like a printing press. And here I selected some of their sentences, and you can see, of course, it's a selection with bias from me. You can read the full interview, and you can see the difference of their opinions. And I don't want to say I agree with this or with the other. These are the opinions. So one say that the printing press was a help, another say no, and we can use a knife to cook and to kill, but the AI is not in our hands, etc. So, final reflections. Here is a quote of Marie Curie, the scientist Marie Curie. Nothing in life is to be feared. It is only to be understood. Now is the time to understand more so that we might fear less. I think it's a good conclusion of all my talk. I think also ethics has become an essential branch of AI in recent years, and it needs to continue, even if in some contexts are at odds. I have lots of questions. Will privacy and transparency coexist in the same ecosystem? Will algorithms be able to be certified as free of bias? Will accountability and responsibility be guaranteed in all situations? Probably not, but maybe we have to choose. Are all these questions transcendent to moving forward in the loop with a human perspective? This is really important. As you know, AI is impossible to stop, and who masters the AI, this technology, will have economic and political and social power. At this point, as a citizens, I only can demand that the artificial intelligence can be trustworthy and designed for the people, with transparency and accountability. Thank you for your attention.
Who would like to start? Just please raise your hand and use the microphone.
Okay, hi. In the start of the presentation, we saw some articles that were talking about some countries banning ChatGPT, but I don't think that's an actual solution, because there will be more replicas, other services, and we cannot control the spreading in the internet. And also, maybe some countries will ban ChatGPT, but not others. And even with more important things like the climatic change, we see that not all countries agree on that. So, yeah, I don't think there's a solution about that.
Can I ask for your name?
Yeah, Mark.
Mark, thank you for your reflection or comment. I agree with you. I think it's not the solution. Maybe it's a temporary solution. And it reminds me, your comment reminds me the beginning of the internet, when it was in, I think it was in 1995 or 6, also an intention to stop all the content in internet inside the web. Yes, the web, and it was impossible. A lot of web pages were replicated from different servers with different contents, and it was impossible to stop that moment, to stop the spread, the content that I thought it was the American government that tried to stop the content that in that moment, in 1995, 1996, tried to spread some people. So this is an example of the past that can show us or help us, no, to understand that this measure, it's not a good measure. Maybe it's a temporary measure to give more time to improve the development of open AI or the development of ChatGPT, or maybe a time to release another tool, different, better, no, without these problems, no? But I agree with your comment. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Roger, and I have a question related about that many companies have forbidden ChatGPT in order for data privacy. Also heard that some universities, schools want to make no access to the ChatGPT. But how can we deal with this, taking into account that technologies are growing and now we have ChatGPT, but maybe in 2 months will appear a new AI more powerful or with another name, and keep appearing these kind of tools? How we should deal with it?
You as a student, you as an engineer, you as a member of the university, you as a citizen, you as a...
More related as how companies or governments, how to deal with it.
Very complicated question. I don't know, I guess each company has their own rules. For example, I have mentioned Amazon and others. But there are lots of companies that they don't care, and they are allowing its engineers to use the ChatGPT. So I think each government has their own rules. The Catalan authority is saying to the public administration in general, it's a stop to using, at least until we have the European answer, the European opinion. So it depends, in each case, it depends of the rules, and the big word maybe is in the hands of a European government, or in the hands of a big tech, or in the hands of you as a citizen. So you as a citizen, you can use it. If you work for a company, I'm afraid you will need to follow the rules of this company. It's a big tech. Maybe you cannot use it. But as a citizen, I would say just taste it all of you want, at least until we have this tool. And then, look, this Ulysses is against my opinion completely. I say taste it, not use it. I know.
So you cannot make tests of technologies that you don't understand and you don't know the legal extent of their use. And basically, they are very successful because they are addictive and they are free. So everyone that uses is doing the wrong thing. Full stop. If you use it inside a private space, so you create all the security measures for your data is not moving away, and you use it, control it, because you know about technology or just to the technology, it's okay. But not for general people, not for kids.
No.
So that's very, and we cannot promote it. And we have to stop making this kind of, let's say, eulogies about these companies or their public repayments that are as fails as a $2 coin. So it's impossible to believe that this guy is not earning as much money as only to pay his health insurance. Come on, he just passed from $400 million to 29 billion dollars. So cannot be true, and it's just the wolf trying to deguise himself as a sheep.
No, I see your point, Ulises, and what I try to say is here we are in a room full of engineers, and our curiosity as technologists is to test the new tools, and we need to test it. Now, other thing is what use it for the public purposes and what as a solution to do everything and to yes, and to give to this company like more and more data to create and develop. But we cannot stop the tools, we cannot stop the developments. We need to know what is behind, and then as a citizens, responsible citizens, we need to do a correct use.
Yes, we can. We stop discrimination, we stop many other things. So yes, we can, but we cannot tell people to do things that they don't have to do. And we have to go against the, let's say, free use of those technologies. So basically, imagine that just the single cost of each copy is less than $2,000. Why? They are giving away $2,000 for each user, 100 million users in the world. So, and it's because people believe that it's free and there is no pollution, there is nothing again. So stop, let us stop it. And if people believe that you cannot stop it, it's because you believe that you are in a sweet surrender, right? You are in love or addicted to this technology, and that's all lost. And we cannot assume that, because we are in supposedly the rational and most powerful part of the society, because we are here just pampered by society, giving all these facilities, all these intelligent and young people, so we cannot bring them to this idea that they should surrender to this technology just by testing it.
This wasn't my intention, and that's the reason because I start my talk with a lot of examples of the problem with the ChatGPT and also with ethics.
Well, I believe these technologies are here to stay, because otherwise, the best way to prevent car accidents is not to use cars, right? So, I'm sorry. So, we will have to live with that. But what I'm surprised is that now everybody is complaining about ChatGPT, how it has hallucinations and generating fake news or whatever, but the humans have been doing that for ages. And they weren't, I mean, complaints, but, well, tolerated, right? So I think the problem here is that there is an amplification of the problem. And also the fact that we have just given the freedom to take decisions instead of us. And we don't like that. Even maybe the decisions are sometimes better. Of course, we have to regulate. And probably we have to do something that similar to what is done to the medicines. Before trying a medicine, you have to do a lot of tests, but we have to test, sometimes with mistakes, with small groups of people. And then when there is some guarantee that the benefits are much bigger than the problems, and then you tolerate that, right? But still there are problems. But I think we have to find ways of regulating the problem I see difficult is how you can guarantee the transparency of these algorithms when there are private companies behind that, because there is the intellectual property. And that's a challenge, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would
Big
say
challenge.
that is one of the biggest challenges that we face in the next years, because transparency and accountability, as I said at the beginning, no? How do we exercise this transparency? It's okay to say, okay, I have transparency. Okay, what it means transparency for you, Microsoft or OpenAI, or what it means transparency for UPC, the university, or what does it mean? So in each case, I think it would mean different things, and it's important to have already this debate, and also to communicate your debate to the citizens, because if not, we don't know what does it mean for this hospital or for this company, and what does it mean accountability. So you will do accountability each year, each 5 years. So if I have a problem, you will give me an answer when. So all of these questions is still need to be addressed, and is a challenge also.
Hi. I would like to go back to a comment or a citation in the presentation that mentioned that ethics are not universal, and it would be hard to come up with a European standard. And I agree with that citation up to an extent, and I could see that it would be very difficult to come up with a global standard model for an AI model that would have the least biases. So we can always, of course, strive for the ideal case where we have a universal model for AI, and but looking at the humanity with the diversity of communities and environments, and sometimes opinions and values are even polar opposites in communities, and sometimes they're very strong. They are rooted in religion or morals or deep history. So with that, let's say opposite opinions or opposite values, can we say that in the end, maybe that standard will come up, but it will be pushed by the economically and politically powerful communities or countries around the world, like most of what happened throughout the human history, right? So I would like to have your opinion on this. Do you think that in the end we will have a standard model, but most probably it will be pushed by the powerful, by the economically and politically powerful communities?
Well, my answer I would like to say no, but yes, we need some standard guidelines, some standard ethics, some standard, and I don't have how you say la bola de vidra, no, the magic ball, no, to answer to your question what will happen. I think it will happen what we want. It will happen what we do. It will happen if we don't think about it, if we don't debate, if we don't raise awareness. Of course, probably it will happen that the political power will will manage our lives in the future. But if we are here, all of us, is because, and debating about ethics or debating about artificial intelligence, is because we are worried in a part, and we have some concerns, and this is really important. I always say that one of the best things of this moment nowadays is that we are debating about ethics, about how the technology can change our life in a way that we don't want when we do this in the after the years. So really, it's important to have these moments, to have this space conference rooms with engineers, with people from different backgrounds, professional backgrounds, and really think what we want for the future.
Hi, thanks for the presentation. Well, I see in a more general way that when we see these kinds of the AI producer, or we can say like the OpenAI, I mean, this is a kind of a force that gathers all of us to come here to make a debate on that. I think this is a most problematic issue in the future as well. And the thing that is astonishing me is that, okay, apart from the OpenAI, there are many others sub-companies or small companies, like the two guys or one guy like me. I'm in my home, I'm opening my own company, and I'm placing my own name, and I'm posting, I'm advertising this company on the Google and on social platforms, people believing, like the Fiverr, and I'm, you know, it's my own company. I mean, nobody is regulating my company. So the future challenges will be how many of these, like the small companies, small subgroups are doing the AIs or implementing the AI's model in a small, as a small subgroup of the companies. We don't know. This will be a big challenge for the whole society, I think. Now the question arises here: who is going to play a role as a big, I mean, as a big organization for this, among all of these small models, small companies? So now the question arises, another question arises, that how or whom we should believe that this is a good company, this is a bad company. I mean, this is a next challenging question, I think, for all of us. So how do you see it?
I see this that okay. From one side, this is a personal decision. So if you have your tiny company, you and your colleague, and you do some artificial intelligence, you do this product. So I would say at least try to be as much ethical as possible. So, you know, what does it mean this? Oh, try to supervise your models, try to see what happened, try to evaluate your models, your artificial intelligence after 1 year, 2 years, see what happened, see if some collective was discriminated or was harmed, or try to change and correct your technology in a very tiny or individual part, because the other part is the governments. So I guess the European Union, with their rules, I hope, will supervise, because your question, I made the same question myself, and I say, okay, we will have an AI act in the next month or year, and okay, but how the European Union will control each tiny company, each person that is developing it? It's impossible. So they will create, or they have started to create, like a national agencies, at least here in Europe. Here in Spain, we have already one. If I'm not wrong, it's creating the team. No, Ulysses is already in the middle. It has a minimal budget. Okay, each country will have an agency to control the companies or the. And they will control these things by their own AI models. So right, I'm with you. I completely agree. So at the end, it's an individual decision, you know, because we have a sentence here in Spanish and also in Catalan, feta la llei, feta la trampa, no? So that if somebody can help me to translate, don't the rule, don't the trap. So you can also cheat and with the law. So it's an individual decision if you want to be more ethical or not. As I told you, one of the voices says ethics is not pursued by a law. Ethics is our own conscience. So Ulysses, come on, say. You are here like I want to talk, I want to say, Karma, no, you are not right. So let's have the floor, please, teacher.
First, I have a question from the chat. Alba is asking, do you think Sam Altman is really worried about AI going wrong? I have seen some people comparing his appearance in the Capitol to Sam Bankman-Fried being taken as the voice of wisdom when creating cryptocurrencies laws. So how much do you think is actual worry and how much is covering his back?
I don't know if he's really worried. He had to put his face like this face like, oh, I'm very worried. I don't know, who cares? Really, the important thing here is to know what are the problems with this tool, what is behind this tool, to see what are the errors, and to see what we don't have to repeat or to try to repeat. So, and the other thing is that thanks, I would say, okay, Ulysses, I'm going to say something. Just what? Thanks to ChatGPT, the EU regulation will change or modify an article, and now there is also forbidden to use this kind of tools. So it is a point. At least it seems that we will be more protected as a citizens, at least here in Europe. And now you have the floor.
Regarding this public appearance of this gentleman on the Congress, we have to say two things. First, it's not the first time that a CEO from a big company appeared. The first was Zuckerberg, and nothing happened. But what is more important, and this is a concern, is that AI has two speeds. The one that the public sees and is free, and the other that is really worrisome. And this is in the hands of the others that never appear in those scenarios. You will never see the CEO of Apple there, or Amazon, or other companies that are really doing the big business. It's clear that no one that is doing military technology will be appear there, and none of those that are doing fintech is appearing there. And the main difference is that those that are putting money to do largest money than the one you can do with the normal AI, the second speed AI as ChatGPT, those are doing the wrong thing. So they are taking more money and in silence, as usual.
True, and thanks to remind us the hidden artificial intelligence that scare us a lot.
Hello, my name is Nitish, and I wanted to know your opinion on my opinion, which I'm going to state. Okay. So I don't think ChatGPT is a threat to us. I think it is just an additional benefit. The threat that we are considering, why we are considering it a threat in terms of ethical and other reasons, is because the bias comes from the data. And the data is produced by humans, which means the bias was already in us when we produce the data. So it is just a reflection on our values and what we have been doing all of the time. I think it just gives us a reflection of our own self, and we are just scared that we are not ethical in our own terms, or you get what I mean. So this is my opinion, and I wanted to know, how do you think about it?
Okay, totally agree, because bias is in the data, and we produce the data, and I don't talk about the ChatGPT as an independent machine that has no. I know certainly that the ChatGPT exists because we humans created this tool, and that's the reason because I talk also about the biases and the problem with the biases, as Ricardo Baeza Yates always says, is that the biases are like the prejudices in the people, and we are not conscious, or we don't realize the prejudices that we have. And the person who says that he has no prejudices is the person who has more prejudices, and the biases are the same, but in the data. And this is one of the challenges, and that is the reason because I list in the final challenges biases, because it's really difficult to mitigate these biases, and this is one of the problems that we will face in the next years with ChatGPT, with other tools. That's true.
Okay. First, thanks for giving us the talk. I think it's very interesting, especially for all of us and the students. I would like to come back to the point she raised before about that this opinion that ethics can never be global. From the point of view of a person who is trying to introduce ethics in undergraduate courses and for PhDs, I think that there is a kind of misunderstanding in the sense that nowadays when we talk about ethics, in reality we are thinking about regulation. Let me explain this. So, personally, I think that ethics can be global, but what cannot be global is the regulation. And this is one of the big challenges we have when regulating things. Ethical principles, at least this is what I'm trying to explain in the courses, are general enough. The main issue here is that, as you mentioned before, in the end it's a personal decision. We have the principles and we have our way of understanding the circumstances and other effects, and then we decide. In this sense, regulations can only set the minimum to, let's say, to survive or to not hurt each other. But from this minimum that must be enforced to the other extreme, that what is really possible, there is a huge area of uncertainty, and here is where ethics take place. So using the example of ChatGPT, from the point of view of ethics or responsible as engineers, if you have a tool that you foresee that may cause real problems, is it wise to put this tool available for the whole world and you say that you are not responsible of this? So this is a question I'm trying to understand. And then again, I see, because I see this also in the lectures, that talking about ethics, we think about regulation or a code. And I think it's much more rich than this because it involves a personal decision. Okay, that's my.
Jordi, I see your point. I understand what you are saying about the ethics. In this case, Mantelero, but at the same time, it's very difficult, as he said. No, it's very difficult to have a global ethics, and for sure, ethics. Let me put here with the definition of this professor of ethics. Okay, so ethics. It says ethics is mandatory, but it doesn't have the force of law. And I think this is the main thing. It's mandatory because finally we are in a society. We are individuals that we are in a community, as a collective. So we need to, it's mandatory for ourselves and also for the collective and for the communities. And it doesn't have the force of law, of course. And here there is a part of volunteer part to do it or not. And the other thing is, when Mantelero says ethics would not be the same for an algorithm helping patients as for an elderly care robot, nor will it be the same for a robot which takes care of a child and has to get particular life values across to them. Plus, each family has different values. In this sense, he said that ethics is different in each country. And of course, we need to have, we need a set of rules, or ethical rules, to function, to go ahead, no? As a society and as a community. But there are really general concepts. And of course, transparency for you will not the same that transparency for me. I think Mantelero is saying this in this sense. And accountability for her maybe is different than accountability for me. Even how to deal with most of these concepts that are in guidelines are different. So we suppose, we imagine, we guess that all of us understand the same for these concepts, but it's maybe not. And here is the point, I think, of Mantelero. We need to really explicit or do the explicit definition of what we are meaning for each concept, and the guidelines of the European Union are written these definitions. But in each situation, in any case, will be different. So I'm not pretty sure if we can have a standard global set of ethical guidelines of codes, because in each situation will be different. And I think Mantelero is saying something like this. Of course, as a society, we need a set of ethical rules, and we already have these rules, and it depends of each of us how we can how we want to follow these rules.
Only one clarification. Yeah, but I insist that from my point of view, ethical principles are different than rules. When he is talking about applying to all countries, I guess he is thinking about rules, not ethical principles. But okay, this is my point.
Maybe I misused the word rules. I meant principles. We need ethical principles, of course, and it's not by law.
Another comment?
Hi. What I found a particularly dangerous point throughout the situation is the accessibility to such powerful tools. ChatGPT is an example, and it's still a very popular one these days, but I know that there are actually technologies that are much more powerful than artificial intelligence, and that will even accelerate artificial intelligence to reach its full capacity, for example, least biases or the management of large data. For example, quantum computing, which is my field. So if we start the cycle of banning accessibility to powerful technologies, or be it for example, for certain countries or certain people or certain businesses, do we expect also this will affect, this will start a chain of banning technologies, and in the end we'll be limiting the access to knowledge and limiting the advancement of sciences just because we are afraid of what we can make as humans?
This is one of the reasons when the thousands of researchers asked for a pause of artificial intelligence, people who were against this letter says maybe we are stopping the evolution of developments of technology, and maybe we need to find another solution. So if we stop the technology forever, probably yes, it would be my answer to you, but this will not happen. So maybe you can ban for a 6 month one technology, but as some of you said before, Mark, it's impossible to ban the progress. It's impossible to ban the evolution, and I think in your field, if your field is quantum energy, so technology.
Quantum technologies, yes.
Quantum technology. So I hope no. I hope we can stop and you can continue studying in this awesome field.
I see this thing well, I would continue the comments by the Professor Jody about the ethics can be global or cannot be global. What I think that it can be global until we start to study our kids or train our kids from their curriculum, because everybody is studying. Every kid is studying in the school, in college, and then university. So we should start them teaching about the ethics in AI. So why should not we start from the beginning? I mean, we are catching the big things like OpenAI. I mean, placing the CEO in the Senate, in front of the Senate. Why should not we start thinking in that way, that we should teach our kids, for our youngster, that there are some certain rules to use these kinds of technology, ChatGPT, and maybe in future not only the ChatGPT but the kids of the ChatGPT. So why should not we start teaching our kids? And at the end, if we consequently these kids or these youngsters will start teaching their ancestors that this is a ChatGPT, or this is a kid of the ChatGPT. It is not very well. You should not use it. So it's a kind of a chain reaction that will happen in all the case, I think.
It's a kind of chain reaction. Totally agree. And this is Karma Torres that I mentioned. She is the director of the Institute of Robotics and Industrial Computing here, and she has written lots of materials for the schools. And she says here, starting with training the people who develop the technology, but she has other papers recommended, please go to the schools from the beginning, when the children are 4 or 5 years, and because they are all the time with the mobiles, with the technology in their hands. So why don't explain from the beginning? Why don't you raise awareness from the beginning? And yes, she has fight a lot and published a lot of papers for the schools in this sense.
Hello.
Hi.
I wanted to say something to your comment. So I actually don't think that, for example, ChatGPT is really problematic used by society because of missing ethics. Because I think like about this global ethic, I think most people all over the world agree that bullying is not right, murdering is not right, like being helpful, being kind to the people you are surrounded by. It is very similar to religious, right? Like religious also developed in different centuries, in different decades, in different areas of the globe, but they are in the core very similar. So what I don't like about discussions like that ChatGPT, for example, is misused by society. AI is mostly misused by the powerful people. That's problematic, and we are not able to stop it. So it's good to teach kids in school, because ChatGPT will not disappear, about the right use. I think what is more, for example, when we consider only ChatGPT here, it's more important to teach kids, for example, to question also AI. So because your example about newspapers, for example, that's spreading wrong news, for example, we do question, or many people do question the news, but I guess many people do not question AI. So that's, I think, a core problem actually, that we don't follow blind technology. And I do understand like where this is coming from. For example, when you have an aircraft and you would rather go into an aircraft that is run by technology than only by the pilot. So there's definitely advantage of having technology, but not following blind. And I think this is a big problem here when we consider now ChatGPT. Obviously, for other AIs, there are many other problems. You gave many examples, but I think it's not a problem of missing ethics in society for most people.
Yeah. I talked at the beginning only about the ChatGPT because it was recently happening this week and the last week, and it was away. And I said at the beginning, I don't know if you were, I said at the beginning that I had in my mind another kind of, to start in another way, but because the event of the Senate. But I also I would add, agree with you. We need more critical thinking, adults, but of course children. And when Karma told us do this stuff and these materials for the schools, is to improve or increase the critical thinking in the children, because she knows that society in general, not all people have this critical thinking. As a society, we follow the mass, no? We could say. And yes, we need a lot, we need to do it ourselves a lot of questions in front of news, it doesn't matter the media, in front of communicate, it doesn't matter the government, in front of a company. So again, I would say it's an individual act, it's an individual answer, but we need this critical thinking, of course, with not only with the technology, I would say in our lives in general, but especially with the technology that we have in this moment.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for the presentation. I wanted to ask, like, before it was raising the topic, like if it's possible to stop this innovation or to halt it for a while, to think about it. And I would like to ask if it's possible actually to want to impose ethics on this tool that has been developed inside the system that sometimes lack a lot of ethics. Like, because I was thinking, like, it's not possible to stop this innovation because we live in an accelerated system that once the innovations come as fast as they can because we are competitive, well, we are educated in competition and businesses compete between them. And for me, the lack of ethics in artificial intelligence have the same root as the lack of ethics in climate change. And it's not just AI, but the whole system which should be applied some ethics. So is it possible to do this division between AI and the whole economic system?
Okay, the first time that I heard about a halt or a pause of the technology was in the presentation of this report in 2020. It was one of the persons was Ramon López Amantaras, and he said, "Oh, this is crazy what is happening without the ChatGPT in 2020, and maybe we need a pause." And I say, "But how? It's impossible to do that, you know." And he tried to explain that we need to decelerate the current moment and don't stop the technology, but maybe we rethink a bit more how or what we are developing. So it's not to stop the progress, it's just to rethink. I think it's very difficult to get a pause for the economical power, for the companies. I think, I don't know, if it happens, it surprised me, the first one, no? So, I don't know how it will happen in the next years, but I see we will not stop. And if we lead with other problems in our lives, climate change, we will lead with the technology that we have in our hands. And we would like that our governments do more for the climate change. And we would like that the next year, decades, to have the certainty that the next decades we will have a better world in the sense of ecological, but we will lead with all these problems in the same way. I have not answered how it will be in the same years, in the next years. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Karma. I will propose you a mental experiment, okay? Let's suppose that ethics is the real thing. I mean, it is the solution for all of these problems. It is global, it is everything, okay? So, do you think that ethics has more chance nowadays to be more applied than it has been during thousands of years before? And if your answer is yes, what are the elements that you find to this reality, to this possibility? Okay?
Do you want an optimistic answer? My answer is yes. And the way how to get this ethical moment, fantastic ethical moment, is because, the rise of awareness in different ways that I have shown some of them, also books on spread of information, but inside the companies also some obligations to have this ethical part of the development. Also, when, for example, in the last month, I have received, how do you say, licitación in English? When you present, when you are a company and you can present to a contest with the government. So you are in a contest to apply to develop a product, and you are two or three companies, and you present your best proposal, and then one of the companies do the product. So in the requirements, there was no huge part, but there was an important part dedicated to the ethics. And part of these requirements say how you will develop this product with this, taking into account these ethics points. And it was following the EU regulation, and it was the first time that I saw this kind of requirements for a government, that it has in mind that this company, if it develops a product, needs to have into account this set of principles. So I think this is important. If most of the governments goes in this way, maybe, and it puts as a requirements in these kinds of context, public context, these points, ethics. Maybe in the next year we will have more, or we will have less products or less ChatGPTs that can harm people or discriminate or take the data or whatever. Yeah, I want to believe in this better.
Related to this about the public contest, but what I have seen is that lots of times these are not requirements, these are suggestions that they give like more points if you follow this. Maybe in a future these should be real requirements that if you don't follow some ethics, then the project will be discarded. But I think
yes, in this case it was like a mandatory, but maybe you are right also that most of this public contest is like a suggestion to get more points, and then finally to be your company that one that develops the product, and yes, it could be fantastic that it was mandatory.
I have my last question.
I'm happy with your
before
questions.
I was having suggestions, but now I have a question, and this is a real problematic question for all of us engineers and researchers sitting here. And I think everybody might be having this question in their minds, that in the last month, in the last 2 months, we were having discussion with our friends in our research room, and one of my friends says that how can we use the ChatGPT to integrate some information taken from the ChatGPT in our paper. I said maybe we can do in introduction, or we can do in the literature review. We can use the information in literature review given by ChatGPT, but not directly. So in that thing, in that sense, we started to review the things, that how it can be integrated. So certainly, I mean, at that point, I saw the Turnitin. You know, the Turnitin is a plagiarism detector. Everybody is using it internationally, global-wise, and the Turnitin allows 1.4% taken from AI is written. The data from AI is, you can use 1.4%. My question is that how we as a researcher in the UPC, we can use these things, because UPC has, Catalan government has their own plagiarism system to check the paper or the thesis or whatever.
It was for your classmates or your colleagues or for your engineers, no? So who wants? Okay, Jordi.
Yeah, and we are going to conclude because we have a code of integrity at this university that we wrote at the ethics committee. So Karma is a member of the ethics committee, Alex is the secretary, I'm the president, and Ulises is also another member. So we are trying to give these rules to our community. And of course, everybody has to act according to their consciousness, right? But I think one of the things that was mentioned here is that education is a real important thing. And from the ethics committee, we are trying to promote that. We are helping the vice chancellor of social responsibility to incorporate some courses on ethics here at UPC. And we see now there is a real need. In the same way that many years ago, people thought that knowing about economy and economics was an important thing for engineers, and we started incorporating these courses. But now I think many people realize that ethics is an essential thing. It's not clear how we are going to incorporate that, but in the new degrees, like the data science degree or the artificial intelligence degree, there are mandatory courses on ethics. In the other degrees, something is optional, and but it's going to be difficult just to convince people, for example, mathematics. Not easy to explain people that are learning mathematics on how to apply ethics there, right? Because things are so abstract. But we are putting some effort, and we are trying to hire people coming with philosophy degrees, teaching here, but we don't have, right? And just putting everything together, just making this consciousness grow. It will be not short term probably, but I think in mid-term, long-term, all this should be incorporated, okay? Then, hopefully.
Super necessary. I would say in all the careers, for journalists also, we need ethics, and everyone, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are rules now that putting about sustainability should be mandatory in our curricula. But I think ethics, which is very related also to sustainability, I mean, there is a big intersection there, so should be also incorporated. How to do that, it's something we need to figure out. It will not be easy, but okay. Okay, Karma, thanks a lot. It was a great talk. It was an excellent debate. I love it a lot. There were very interesting questions, and I think that was the purpose of the lecture. So
it was a pleasure, and thank you very much for your participation. It's one of the most valuable things when you are invited and try to explain things that the audience can debate with you. So thank you.
Okay.